Hello, this is the latest episode of the Figuring It Out podcast, and today I want to talk about being indecisive when it comes to traveling, or to be honest, just being indecisive in general, and the way that sometimes that indecisiveness can actually cause you so much decision fatigue that you may decide that you don't want to travel at all, or that you don't want to take on new experiences and try new things that will ultimately make you grow as a person. And I've felt this way a lot, definitely quite a lot in the past, where there's almost been too many decisions in my head. Where shall I go to? What shall I try that's new? I'll have a list, I'll write down loads and loads of things that I want to try, I want to do. And ultimately, because I just can't make a decision of where to start, I just won't try any of them. And I had that happen for quite a few years, especially when it came to traveling, going to new places, trying new things in new places. And I just sort of in the end decided that I'd had enough really, and I was just ready to explore anywhere and everywhere. And I think one thing about being indecisive, especially when it comes to traveling, is that you can actually use it to your advantage. You can use the indecisiveness that you have to actually help you make a decision. And that decision might be based on a good deal that you see. It might be based on the fact that it's the only place you can go to on those days because the flights only go there, or there's only hostels available on those dates in them places. So actually, sometimes when it comes to indecisiveness, when you travel, it can actually work to your advantage. So I kind of wanted to start by speaking to anyone really who does struggle to make these decisions, does struggle to plan trips. And the first thing I'd say is you just need to break it down, essentially. You don't have to break it down too much, and you don't have to make it too specific. But what you can do is you can break it down into three different things. The first thing is the budget. So how much do you have to spend on this trip? And that may depend on where you can go ultimately. For example, a bigger budget would allow you to travel to much further out places. That could take you to the other side of the world, could take you on a plane much further away than a more modest budget, which may even send you somewhere in the same country or even just down the road. So obviously the budget does matter. So I think the first thing to figure out is how much you're willing to spend on this trip or whatever you want it to be. You don't know yet. So just sort of calculate a rough budget in your head, and then that will help you move on to the next stage, which is time. How much time are you willing to give to this trip? For example, do you have some upcoming time off work, perhaps 2, 3 weeks, a month even? Or is it just a week, or maybe even just a couple of nights, or even just a day? So definitely having the time will also help you realize what you're actually capable of doing and where you're capable of going. So I will also say though, just because you have a short amount of time doesn't mean you can't travel far. So if you have a slightly larger budget and you've always wanted to go to New York, then don't let that stop you. I went to New York last year and I only went for 4 nights and had a great time. And I think especially with the price of New York, just eating out, doing things in general, it's quite expensive. So, you might have a sort of largest budget for travel, but for when you're there, it might not stretch. So I did that last year and had a really good time. I managed to go to New York at Christmas time, which was definitely one of those bucket list moments. And I also got a sale. So have a look at flights, see what you can find. I managed to get my return flights at a pretty reasonable price. Can't remember how much exactly it was, but it justified going there and back in 4 nights. And I did have a really good time. But otherwise, if it is just, for example, a day or a night or 2 nights, it might make more sense to go somewhere within the same country, just within a couple of hours away, or perhaps just to fly somewhere, maybe somewhere local, depending where you live. If you're in the UK, then flying to Dublin can take less than an hour. But that would generally, knowing the time that you have to dedicate to your trip, will obviously help you better know what it is you're capable of going to, or where you can go. And third type is essentially the type of trip that you want to have, because when you do go on trips, there are going to be lots of different types. You could have your city breaks. That obviously, for example, when I said New York last year, that was very much a city break. I went to some shows, I went to some bars, and it was great. But obviously, there's not a beach in sight. So if you are looking for somewhere that has a beach, that has a bit more to do in terms of going out and sort of seeing pretty sights, it can really depend on where you decide to go. it doesn't matter if you're quite open-minded. And to be honest, I'm open-minded. I went to Croatia last month, and I went to Zagreb, which is the capital, and that's inland. So I didn't actually go to the sea. And when I've always thought of Croatia, I've always thought of places like Split and Dubrovnik. But yeah, this place was further inland, and I just went because it was cheap. It was cheap to fly to, and although maybe I would have preferred to have gone to the sea, when there was a vast difference in the price, I just decided to go inland. And you know what? When I was there, I could have just got a Flixbus, or I could have gone to the coast if I wanted to. So yeah, just because you maybe put the type into a certain category, it doesn't matter too much. But it's just good to use these three things to kind of help you slightly narrow down where you might want to go and what you might want to do. And I think once you've got those three sorted, the next stage is just to figure out what you're going to book. So, for example, if your budget's quite modest, under £100, the time off is, say, 3 nights, and the type of break is you don't mind. Let's just say you preference city breaks, but you're happy with anything. Then that instantly helps. That instantly helps because then you can say, right, okay, if my flight budget is under £100, I'm going to look into Europe if you live in Europe, or if you live in another country, it will be somewhere local that you can fly to in a couple of hours. And then I'll just hit the websites, hit the Ryanair website, hit Skyscanner, just all the websites for the kind of places where you can book and get there in a couple of hours on a budget. There's plenty of them. I've also done a podcast all about how to book budget trips, so feel free to listen to that as well. And then the next thing I would say is just to get something booked. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a place that you've always wanted to go. If you find something on a good deal on times that you're free, then just go for it. Honestly, just get that flight booked and you've done it. And the next stage, obviously, there's accommodation issues, things like that. But near enough everywhere you go, there's going to be hostels, and most of them are pretty reasonably priced. You know, hostels can be anywhere from maybe even £3, which I found in Thailand, wouldn't highly recommend them, to maybe £50 or £60, which is the much higher end, and that's going to be somewhere that's a bit unique and different. And generally, I mean, even in New York, I paid £30 in a city that's one of the most expensive in the world. So I don't think you're going to have to pay a massive amount. And also, if you look on Hostelworld, you find something you want to book, just get it as a refundable option. You might find something cheaper afterwards, or you might change your mind, decide that you've got a bit more of a budget to go to a hotel. But the main point is, once you book the flight, that just secures everything else. I feel like once you make that first small step, everything else just falls into place. And I've done it many times. I've looked online, I've had a rough idea of the budget, the time, the type of adventure that I want, and I've gone ahead and booked something, and I've just filled the gaps afterwards. And every single time I've done that, it's always worked out. I've always had a good time, and it's made me realize that my indecision can actually lead to helping me make a decision in a weird kind of way. And I think if you follow these steps, then you'll get the same result. So I hope that's taught you something today. I hope that you use this on your next adventure and enjoy.